What do you miss about the 90s? Not being required to be reachable 24/7 and not answering a phone call was not perceived as being antisocial. Second this. Now, if you don't message someone real quick, you apparently have attitude issues and not social enough to work with. Shaking my head. Record stores, bookstores, and video arcades, and all of them are at the mall. Don't forget video stores. So crazy to think movie gallery was a relic of my youth. Running around the aisles looking for a special movie. Going into old horror movie sections. RIP. Video games were complete when you bought them. Loved reading the manual on the way home. Now you just get an ad. I miss that so much. Some games had a massive manual with backstory and extra info on the game too. Lack of smartphones. You could do something silly without worrying that someone was recording it and sharing it with the whole world. That indescribable after-school feeling I had as a teenager, which could only be aptly expressed through a song like Counting Blue Cars or something like that. The summer of '95 is one I'll never forget, because that's when we got our first internet-connected PC. Back then, everything felt so new, so fresh. It's the kind of nostalgia which cannot be justified with words alone. No one who wasn't alive during that time would quite understand, even if you tried explaining it to them, but it almost felt like an innocent time, at least compared to the years that would follow. It's like trying to explain how important MTV was to a generation of people who have unlimited access to music. MTV was the only way you were gonna hear a lot of that stuff. Remember sitting by your stereo waiting for the radio to play that song so you could record it on cassette tape? I still have all my mixtapes from the 90s. Good cartoons. Saturday morning cartoons were awesome. Today's kids may never know the pain of waking up at 6 a.m. to watch a show, but at least they'll know the suffering of logging onto Netflix only to discover the contract ended and the show is no longer available. 85 cents per gallon gas. It felt more face-to-face social. You used to meet people at the mall, a restaurant, or the local hangout. Now it seems that even before we all became locked in our homes, a lot was done across the internet. I recently rewatched all of Hey Arnold, and I was reminded of a time that I never even hear about anymore. All the kids I've heard of play games with one another online for the most of it, instead of going out and exploring the world. Or the block, rather. Janko jeans. No internet, cell phones. They were each there but very different from what we have now. No one really had a way to track you or keep tabs on you. There was much more freedom back in the 90s, even though I was a teenager graduating high school in 2000. Blockbuster video. Going to rent movies. Video games didn't take 3 days to download or load more content. Cell phones weren't mainstream and they definitely didn't have cameras or the internet attached to them. Rock was mainstream and not whatever we have now. And kids were kids, not kids trying to be adults. Everything. All new tech was actually amazing and interesting. Computer processing seemed to double overnight and you could actually tell the difference. Had AIM to chat with multiple friends at once. Internet shopping was in its infancy and you get excited finding some obscure store with the product you wanted for a great price. Sure, it took 2 weeks to get to you, but hey, no cell phone so you could really disconnect from the world. Going on a road trip was actually an adventure when all you had was maps or MapQuest that may or may not be correct. When your favorite episode of a show came on, it was like Christmas morning and maybe got a VHS tape out to record it if you had blanks. As a kid, you were free to roam the neighborhood and came home when the streetlights came on. You just show up at a friend's house on your bike and see if they could come outside. Pre-9/11 was interesting and could just kind of travel around. No major security lines at airports, etc. Brightly colored clothes were pretty popular from what I remember. Some of those vibrant patterns were nice and upbeat. It was the golden age of Pokemon. Its popularity was so intense. Man, such great times. Wearing checked shirts unbuttoned with the t-shirt on underneath. Playing classic video games like SimCity and Warcraft 2. Spending afternoons after school riding my bike with my friends and hanging out in the park. Playing Magic the Gathering with my friends. The feeling I got when I used to watch American cartoons, TV shows, those Nickelodeon game shows, and toy ads. Something that made me as a kid feel that everything was so cool, awesome, and fun. If this makes sense, it was easier in the 90s to have a really good balance between an online life and an offline life. I'd argue it was the only decade in which it was possible. Computers and the internet were becoming common, but internet was expensive, usable, but still pretty damn slow, and often metered. So you could enjoy the benefits of finding information and chatting asynchronously with people all over the world. But at some point you were inevitably going to have to go outside. And because laptops and mobile devices hadn't taken over the world yet, outside meant it was still a very much public social sphere. Record stores, coffee shops, bars, bookstores, concerts, etc. meant you met people face to face frequently and built a social group, hopefully, of people you would hang out with for hours on a Friday night. I don't know that I'm phrasing it well, but these days it seems like people break down to being either extremely online, especially since our current work culture often all but requires us to be, or consciously rejecting technology, the resurgence of vinyl, the rising interest in traditional crafts, etc. In the 90s, it really was pretty easy to enjoy the excitement and benefits of new technology while still having plenty of connection to real life and public spaces. Not having a smartphone to supply 24/7 entertainment. I listened to music more, read more, and spent lots of time just gazing at things. Gazing out the window at the plants and sky, gazing at my decor, gazing at my cats. Doing nothing like that was good for the mental health. Yes, I know I could choose to set my cell aside, but I'm just saying it was easier to live in the moment when the cell was not an option. Listening to CDs in full. Nowadays, nobody knows any of the deep cuts on an album. You just hear the singles or skip around too quickly while streaming albums, so no songs have a chance to really grow on you. I wasn't addicted to Reddit. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more videos.